All right, I'm showing that the time is 11:30 Central Time, so we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Ben Wilson, and today we're going to talk about Site to Do Business for the Appraisal Institute members. I want to say a quick appreciation to our appraisers, one of our largest groups of members out there, as evidenced by our negotiated rate that we have with the Appraisal Institute. For those of you who don't know, it's the most significant discount that we have with any organization, and provides access to Site to Do Business for $900 annually. If you're not a current subscriber and you are wanting to take advantage of that, and this is something I'll probably recap at the end of the presentation, but if you go to stdb.com/appraisal, you'll see the discounted rate for the Appraisal Institute subscription. You just have to be an active MAI in order for you to get access to that. Now, a couple of other things before we actually get started. I wanted to make sure that everyone was aware that we were going to put today's webinar is going to be on the Learning Center. So we will have it posted here under past webinars. You'll be able to come in and view this webinar at any point in the future within the webinars panel at Site to Do Business. I also wanted to provide my personal contact information. If for whatever reason you ever want to get in touch with me in the future, my name is Ben Wilson, bwilson@ccm.com. You can reach me at my phone number there. I'll be happy to help you with any questions that you have, specifically about Site to Do Business and what this looks like for people in the appraisal community. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started. We try to do one of these webinars every year for our appraisers, and kind of talk about some of the differences, some of the changes that have happened over the last year. Quite a few changes in the business analyst realm. But before we actually get started in there, what I want to talk about is a new tool that you might have just come across in the bottom right-hand corner. And what this is our support agent. It's an AI support tool. So if you go in here to chat with AI support, it can't answer everything. This is the first iteration of the tool. But for example, what if you needed help with, if you forgot, we've got all these different panels, where to go for different things. What if you were looking for high quality aerial imagery? You just type in a search for high quality aerial imagery, and in about 10 or 15 seconds, we're going to get a response as to which application that you would actually use to get high quality aerial imagery. And I saw a question just come through. If anyone has any questions throughout the presentation in the question box or the chat box or the question box, you can just let me know that you do have questions, and I'll be sure to get to those as I see those come in or at the conclusion of the presentation. Um, so here you can see for high quality aerial imagery, we recommend using pictometry. So pictometry is just one of the applications here that's available. And if you haven't used it before, definitely recommend you taking a look at it. It's outstanding high quality aerial imagery shot by an airplane as opposed to a satellite. I was just down in San Antonio last week. And I don't have an address off the top of my head, but if let's just say we wanted to look at 1604 Texas Loop, we could get some imagery here, and maybe we were doing some appraisal work on probably this, I don't know, maybe it's some kind of mine here. But as you can see up in the top left-hand corner, the imagery was actually taken from July 17th, 2025. We're just not going to find better high-quality aerial imagery out in the marketplace. You also have the ability to go back in time over the course of time. So, for example, if you wanted to see what this looked like, not only currently, but if you wanted to go back to 2005, for example, you could see what this site looked like in 2005. You can also rotate the imagery. You can turn on parcel boundaries from a layer standpoint, contours as well as street names. So that's the pictometry application. But again, if we didn't know what we were getting into, and maybe we're not spending a whole lot of time in the site, but we need a little help, this new AI chat support bot is really improving as well. And I think really proving to take a lot of the load off the customer service agents around here because it can provide some really good, meaningful information. Um, the next thing I want to talk a little bit about flood maps. Most of you are probably familiar with the FEMA flood maps. This is just looks like I was logged in here twice. Um, I'm just going to give you the ability to pull up that 100 and 500-year floodplain. So this is where I live in Dallas. Thankfully, I am not in the floodplain. But if I was to type in an address, and just click on that drop down and search. What we're going to find is the 100 and the 500-year floodplain. And while it's not currently in my immediate area, if I turn on those flood risk overlays, you'll see that there are all kinds of creeks in my neighborhood and then a White Rock Lake just to the east. If you were to run this report, you could download the PDF version and you're going to get the zone numbers, the flood numbers, and then you'll also find out if it's actually in or outside of the flood risk zone. And then the panel date and the map number as well. So, um, a lot of our appraisers use that report. And again, that's just pulling directly from CoreLogic's flood risk meter tool. Um, for business lists, if you're looking for specific business data and you need contact information, phone numbers, email addresses, this tool, Database USA, is going to be the best option for you. I always recommend users going into the advanced search. And over here on the left side is going to be all the filtering options. And so maybe you're looking in the metro area of Charlotte, North Carolina, and you just want to pull up all of the businesses that are in a specific industry type. You can go into major industry group, and let's just say you're interested in manufacturing. If you wanted a list of all the manufacturers in Charlotte, North Carolina, you could get this list right here. What you'll find here is with the business names, you get business names, email addresses, phone numbers, revenue trends over time, key executives, contact names, social media links. So quite a bit of information there. And then also, of course, if you needed to get more granular, maybe you want manufacturing and you only want small businesses, or maybe employee sizes between specific ranges, or you only want to look at small business indicators. You can go in and you can filter these things however you want. When you actually query the list, just make sure that if you want the entire list with all the data, you can download it. And you can just have that sent to your email address. It'll show up as a CSV or an Excel file for you. So I wanted to speak just briefly about those tools before I jump into what most people spend the majority of their time with Insight to do business, and that's the business analyst tool. And so within business analyst, I want to focus in on a couple of specific workflows that I think are especially important to people in the appraisal community. So the first thing I want to talk about is up in the top right-hand corner. We do not have historical data beyond census years, except for a couple of reports. But you can go back to 2024 if you wanted to see the 2024 data. You could just go up in the top right-hand corner, and if you click on the little cog here, you can go to the 2024 data versus that 2025 data. So that's one thing that you can do. And then the next thing that I want to talk about is kind of in the same vein as that workplace assistant tool that I showed right at the beginning. There is a new tool that I think is really helpful for people that are looking um, to quickly gather information that might not be experts at actually navigating the site. And so up here in the top right-hand corner, we have the Business Analyst Assistant. Um, let's just say that I wanted to um, map income in San Francisco, California. So instead of having to go in and define my area, um, you'll notice that it's going to automatically select San Francisco County. Now, if I didn't want San Francisco County, maybe I wanted the city limits, I could edit that and I could say, oh, well, I just want the city limits. And I'm interested in, I said, income. So it's going to automatically choose per capita income, but maybe I want to change that to, median household income. I can go in and I can change that just with the click of a button and not have to filter through all the different business data sets. Um, and if I just click create maps, we're going to be looking at that color coded map by block group. So here you can see, all 679 block groups with the median household incomes. Um, if I wanted to make an adjustment here, I could do so. So I can go into something like zip codes. and I can see the 28 zip codes that are in San Francisco proper. And maybe at this one, I also want to filter the list because maybe I'm doing a comparison of the wealthiest zip codes in San Francisco. And so now where we are is I've created this map where we've got a list of the top let's see, 6 zip codes. And here you can see that data. Obviously, I could export that information to Excel if I wanted to. But for our purposes, I'm just going to take a look at those zip codes real quickly. And hold on, it looks like there's a question that came in. Ah, a question about contact information in the chat. B. Wilson, let's see, I'll just put it in the chat right here. There you go. When it comes to zip codes, so that's what we're searching for here. We have these 6 different zip codes. Now, um, a lot of times in the appraisal world, we're wanting to compare sites. And so if I wanted to compare these 6 different zip codes, I think a lot of times people would go through the process of defining their area and selecting the geography and creating that site. And I just wanted to show you a quick workflow that might make that a little faster for you. So I'm looking at these 6 different zip codes, and if I go up here to the top right-hand corner and click on the select button, what I can do here is if I just click on shift and create a rectangle around the area of importance, you're going to see that I have 6 different zip codes selected. And at this point, I could run reports on these. I could also run infographics. But if I wanted to compare them, I could select this comparison option. I really like this. I could compare it with specific geographies if I wanted to. So if I wanted to compare these zip codes to the county, to the state, to the entire country, I would want to go here to the compare. So if I like all of these, I could do that. The other option, like I said, is to create a new benchmark comparison. So with benchmark comparisons, you can see here that I have my 6 different sites. And if I wanted to add additional sites, maybe I also want to include neighboring geographies. I really like this option because, so often, we're going to have the option to go in and once we've selected what's on the map, we could also create any of our historical polygons, any geographies, um, any layers that we have. So any kinds of geographies that we might want to select. And so right now we're just going to keep it to those 6 zip codes. And now we're in a place where we can start to create side-by-side comparisons. And so with our side-by-side comparisons, we can use actually any geography or any of the almost 14,000 different lists or different demographic variables. The other thing I really like here is that we do have the option to save our lists. And so if we know we're always going through and creating the same variable list, we don't have to go through and manually select those. We can go in and we can select them one time and then save our list. So I'm just going to choose a few different variables here. Maybe it's population density, maybe it's income related, um, maybe it's household information, or age, or education, or lifestyle data. Um, Maybe I want to create a custom variable that has something to do with the number of people between the ages of 0 and 18. And so I can go in and I can create a list of all of these variables that I want. And if I wanted to, I could save that list. Now, in the future, if I wanted to come back to this list, I could save my list so you can see that I have like an appraisal overview list. And that could have any number of different variables. Well, I'm going to save this list and call this my appraisal webinar 11 20 2025. Save that. And so now in the future, if I wanted to come back to this, I could just go into appraisal webinar and I could immediately pull that up. And I could also edit it by adding additional variables to it. But for now, I'm just going to click apply. And now I can see a side by side of all of the data that I'm specifically interested in. You can see here that I have 6 sites. I have 10 different variables. If I wanted to include the mean or the median, you could see that I can do that as well. Um, I can also map this data. So for example, if there's one of the variables that I want to map on a color gradient scale, I can look at that. So, for example, if I want to look at high to low of the population density, you can see where it's high versus low. Or if I wanted to change that to something like housing affordability or total population, you can see that I can adjust these where I'll see the results on the color scale. Now, from just a strictly data standpoint, you can see here that I've turned on my comparison method, so you can see the different rankings of these variables. Now, if you don't want that, you can just say none, and you'll notice that those go away. This also acts as an Excel file, so I can customize this. I can export it to Excel however I want to. Maybe I'm comparing this 74129 zip code against the other zip codes. I can just click on the make benchmark. And what that's going to do is it's going to compare all of the other geographies against that site. So I can see how different it is based on whatever demographic variables I'm interested in. Now, if I need this data in a different format, I can export it to Excel. And just to kind of give you an idea of what that looks like, you can see that I get the side-by-side data here. I can also go high to low, top and bottom, above and below, highlight the extremes. So lots of different data options as far as being able to see the different information that goes into this. The other thing I really like about these comparison reports is they're consistent as far as the fields that the information goes into. If I know that, I always need it in this order, every time I run that report, I'm going to get the data feed the exact same way. Um, Instead of, having to create macros to export from different Excel files that might change from year to year. I just think that that makes for a nicer, cleaner export. So something to keep in mind there. So that's the comparison data. Now, to give you an idea of just how much can be done quickly, I'm in the state of Texas. We have 254 counties. And if we needed to compare all of those, I could quickly go in here and say, I want to create a map. And I'll show you a little trick here. So if I go and just look at total population, if I go in here to my area of interest and I select Texas, you can see here that I only am interested in the state. Now, any of the data points that I want to view are available. So if I want to look at this by county, I can see all of the different counties here, 254 counties, and all the corresponding population data. If I wanted to, I could export that and have those 254 data points. The other thing I can do is I can just highlight all of these. And you'll notice that I have the option to do a couple different things. I could create a comparison there. I could also go in here and create sites from all 254 of those locations and then start running reports. Now, I'm not going to do that because it's going to take just a couple of minutes and because of the number of data points, but just wanted you to know that uh, you don't have to go through that manual process of defining your areas up here, but you certainly can if you want to. Now, there's another question that just came through regarding if you wanted to go in and look at a couple of different geographies. Let's say that there's specifically some counties that you're looking at, and you want to look at all of them at once. You can go in and you can select those from the map. So here you can see we've got lots of different geographical options, but maybe I'm interested specifically in counties. And so here you can see all of those different borders. Now, if I wanted to choose a couple of different counties, I can just simply click on the map here. And you'll notice that I got a couple of different options. If I just wanted to compare these, I wouldn't want to combine those into a single site. But notice that I do have the option to combine them if I just wanted all of those counties to be a single study area. So that's a 5 county study area that I'm now looking at. And any report that I run is going to be specifically about that. Um, Most of us probably are familiar with the infographic templates, but I do want to talk about a couple of the new ones here. I really like this new Business Key Facts. Business Key Facts pulls up information that's all about the total businesses in the area, the key statistics, which businesses, what are the top 25 largest businesses? What are the businesses by sales? And then also, if you wanted to look at that information about that total workforce, how many businesses there are per different type or per thousand households. I really like that new report. Also available. Been getting a lot of questions about this specifically. So historically, the appraisal group has run a lot of executive summaries. And if I was to come in here and run an executive summary, typically there's been a little bit of a narrative in that report. And the new version of the report actually does not include the narrative. It's just going to be a data feed. However, there is an option for you to toggle on and off the new report style. If you don't want that new report style, you can go in and you can just turn that off. And you'll notice that that original formatting is going to be available here. So I'm just going to run that report again. And there you can see that classic version of the report that does include the little narrative as well. There's a question that just came through about growth. Is there a way to show growth over the course of time? Absolutely. Let's say that we wanted to look at the entire country and we wanted to look at the projected growth. We can come in here and create a color-coded map, and we can look at annual population growth rate. I've got the state of Texas still highlighted. I'm going to turn that off. And so now we can see the nationwide counties, so all the counties in the lower 48 here. And if I wanted to filter that information, I can do that. So if I wanted to see all the counties where the projected growth is set to be over 2%, I could pull that up and gather that information here. So when you create the filters, it's only going to show you the geographies that are meeting your criteria. It's a great question. So another question that just came through about showing how things have changed over the course of time. So in this case, I'm going to select a geography or create a site rather. And let's just say I wanted to look at it on a 1, 3, and a 5 mile ring. The report that's going to provide the best information when it comes to a look back over the course of time is going to be the time series profile. Now notice that this, just like any of the other reports, is going to be available in PDF as well as Excel format. And so if I was to run this report in PDF format, you'll see the ability to download that. And now you can see a look back from 2010 all the way to current 2025 data. Now, this only includes a few different demographic variables, such as population, households, and housing units, but they're definitely ones that are relevant to a lot of folks in the appraisal community. Just wanted to make sure that I mentioned that specific report. There's a question that just came through about uploading your own data. So that's a good segue. So I'm going to bring in a file. Now, these are some data points that are in Florida. We've got some different information in here. We have, the name, the address, city, state. We have site name, details. If I wanted to take this information and load it onto the map, easiest way to do that's going to be to click on Add Data, Import File, and then I can browse and choose that file. And as long as I have address, city, state, and zip code, it's going to map. I'm mapping that data to the point locations. Keep in mind you can map to geographic boundaries, but because we have the addresses, I'm going to map by point locations. We have address, city, state, and zip code here. So I'm just going to click next. And so you can see here those points on the map. Now, a couple of things about that. If we want all of those to show up differently, I can set those as unique symbols. And maybe that's all I wanted to do. I just want to see those different points on the map. If I wanted to do that, I could click over here on create PDF or image, and it's going to take exactly what you see on the map. It's going to create a legend, and we're going to be able to see those businesses on the map. What if we wanted to create a heat map? We could do that, or we could do color and size, where it's based on a certain metric. In this case, it's square footage. So different mapping options are certainly available, but one of the other things that you can do here is you can create study areas from these points. So right now they're just points on a map, but if I wanted to, I could say I want to create these study areas based on a 3 mile ring. And so I'm going to go ahead and save that. And you can see here that we have these different study areas that are being created. The other thing that's actually going on here is it's taking all the information from those spreadsheets and it's loading it into the points as attributes. And so if I was to click on this, here you can see right now it's just clicking, it's just showing the study area. But if once it actually defines the layer, it's going to bring in that information that was actually on the spreadsheet, which I'm just going to pull back up real quickly. So here you can see that it has things like name, address, city, state, and zip code. Well, what if I wanted to look at this information? You see, I have square footage information or price information. What if I wanted to use that attribute data in my analysis as part of the ranking? Well, what I can do here is you can see here there's an option to perform a suitability analysis. And so that's actually what I'm going to do. The suitability analysis is one of my favorite things to be able to do in Esri. But before I actually get started on that, I did just want to show you the attribute field. So all that data is now located within these points. And so if I was to perform a suitability analysis, what that's going to allow me to do is rank these sites based on different attributes. And so maybe I'm interested in population or income, and I want to show these sites on a ranking. Well, the other option that I have is to actually just look at the information that I brought in from my spreadsheet. And so when I come down here to select criteria, with the data browser, that's going to be all of Esri's data. So, all of the 14,000 different demographic variables that are available in the system. Well, the other option that we have here is the attributes from the site. So again, that's the information I just brought in. What if I wanted to look at this by square footage? What you can see here is that we're going to have those sites ranked by square footage. And we also have some options about how we want to look at this. So right now, you can see that the top square footage is this space down here, Little River assemblage. And then it's going to go to this site and then this site and all the way down to this site, which is 26,000. Well, we're ranking this in a way where the influence is positive. So higher is better. But we've got all kinds of control here. What if we said, well, really, it's ideally they'd like to be at about 30,000 square feet. So we can adjust the ideal value, or maybe it's 35,000 feet. We can go in here and we can adjust this however we want to. And now I'm looking at ideally we'd like to be around 35,000 square feet, which is the best location. Oh, well, it's this one. We can also set it up to where less is better. So maybe it's a price and we want an inverse relationship on square footage. Well, right now we're just looking at positive influence and more is better, but we can add additional criteria in here as well. Maybe it's population density or income or local amenities. We can go in and we can create a suitability based analysis based on however many variables we want. And we can also adjust the weights however we want. So maybe we think that square footage, that's about 80% of the equation, and the rest is population, that's 20%. And so that means this is going to be our top site. Um, One of the other new capabilities here is that we also have the ability to now export this information not only as a map, but we can also export it as an infographic. So a visual representation of that data. So you can see why these sites score the way that they do with the details to back it up. All right. So we tried to keep these sessions to about a half an hour in length. Um, Now would be a great opportunity to ask any questions if you have them. Um, I'll give you a few minutes to go through and ask any questions, but wanted to provide my contact information again. Again, Ben Wilson, bwilson at csam.com. We want you using these tools. And so whatever we can do to assist you, um, definitely want to help however I can. Um, just saw a question come through about business data. Yes, so the business data is obviously available in Database USA. You can also map business information from the Create Maps tab with the points of interest. So if we wanted to look for specific businesses, we could do that. Maybe it's, let's just say we want to know all of the Home Depots. You can go in and map all of the Home Depot locations. You can also filter that data. So, like right now, it says that there's 164 Home Depots, but you'll notice that there's a lot of those that are duplicated, things like Home Depot and then Home Depot Services and Office Depot. Well, we actually just want Home Depots, so we can filter that. If we wanted to change the logo, obviously we could do that as well. We could just go in and change our icon instead of the red dot. We could go in here and import our custom symbol. Once those symbols are saved, you can put those in your custom logo database and you can use those um, going forward. And so you can see what that looks like. So all of our Home Depot locations, you can also turn off the clustering if you want a single icon for each of the different points. Um, so yeah, that's the business list tool. Obviously, you can also create sites from these. So if you wanted to click on this, you can create a buffer and then start running reports based on it. You can also, maybe that business is no longer there. You can remove specific points that you don't want on your list. If you know you're going to reuse these points of interest in the future, you can save the layer. Once you save the layer, it'll be available permanently uh, from from your project content. So everything you do in here, you can see point locations, polygons, geographies, any layers that you create. So I haven't created any layers, but if I save this, it would then be available the next time that I come in here and I can run this. So if I deleted my map, I'm gonna just clear it out real quick. And I wanted to bring that information back in, I would just go in here to turn on my Home Depots and it populates that those site points again for me. All right, looks like there's a couple of questions that have come in. Let's see. To get the Appraisal Institute discount, yes, you need to be in the process of getting that MAI. Again, you can get there by going to stdb.com/appraisal. Can I locate comp points and indicate label and distance from the subject? That's a great question. So if we have points on the map, I'm just going to use these ones, my HVAC sites. Up here in the Run Analysis tab, you'll notice that there's an option for nearby analysis. And so if I was to use what's currently on the map, right now, you can see we've got all these points on the map, and I could add an additional layer here. So my point list, I would just add in another point list. But let's just say that our comps are gas stations, and we're to click apply. So what we're going to see down here at the bottom is going to be 396 different points. And here, if you come in here, you can see the number of points, the dot density, but then the distance to the nearest point. And so that's how you would pull up, your that kind of detail. And so if you have two different lists, you've got a comps and then you've got your subject properties, you would just upload both of those files, and then you would go through that nearby analysis workflow. Great question. Let's see. Oh, great question about tutorials. So lots of different things in here that I think a lot of people don't use on a regular basis. Um, Again, today's webinar will be archived, but if you go into our Learning Center, we have all kinds of content on how people are using it from a retail or industrial or economic development or appraisal. Um, you can also look at any of our past webinars, how do I videos, resource pages. So lots of content as far as how to do different things on the site. So again, my name is Ben Wilson. I hope you feel like you learned something today. We'd love to answer any questions you might have about Site to Do Business, specifically for the appraisal community. We'll go ahead and stop the recording. And if there's anything I can do in the future to help, please let me know. Thanks and have a great day.